Chili Con Carnage is the spiritual successor to a PlayStation 2 title known as Total Overdose. It manages to retain most aspects of the previous game, whilst adding in new features and mechanics that helps flesh out the experience. Players assume the role of a young man known as Ram, who is subjected to the killing of his father and vows to track down those who are responsible. It's essentially a shooter at heart, with the game relying heavily upon a combo system that sees you chaining kills together in order to fill a meter which rewards the player in several ways, may that be with an extra amount of health or even unlocking additional characters to use in single player as well as the multiplayer mode. Now there's a whole host of weapons and power-ups at your disposal to cause carnage with, such as support characters that can jump in and help you take on the horde of enemies the game throws at you. If you're looking for something to pass the time with, Chili Con Carnage is an absolute blast and definitely deserves a look. Claydon follows the story of a young girl known as Despina, who possessed the ability to create her own dimension, but in doing so she unknowingly opened the way to several others. Now the story's nothing to write home about, but it serves the game well, and sets the stage for what Claydon excels at, which is essentially its gameplay. If you're a fan of roguelikes or other dungeon crawlers, there's a huge set of diverse areas in which to explore and overcome, with each possessing a multitude of traps, environmental hazards, and unique enemies that will try to hinder your progress. Aiding the player is a wide range of weapons, armor, and magical abilities that will help even the odds and make each dungeon all the more manageable. But the standout mechanic of the experience has to be the magic circle, which allows players to fully customize Despina by merging sub-characters with herself, resulting in a variety of abilities and stat boosts becoming available. It's a neat little mechanic and adds a truly strategic element to the experience. Rengoku 2 introduces players to a world where androids have become the standard means in which to wage war. The game follows one of these robots who has managed to attain self-consciousness and as a result has an undying urge to learn more about itself as well as the environment that surrounds it. Now it won't leave you on the edge of your seat, but it does offer a meaningful narrative that is definitely worth playing through. Gameplay wise it's a rather unique setup, with each button on the PSP corresponding with one of the robot's limbs, which can all be fully customized with a whole host of diverse weaponry as well as items that opens up the experience to many differing playstyles. And this is where half the fun lies. Figuring out which set works best for you will see the gameplay constantly changing and evolving over the course of the adventure as more and more upgrades become available to you. Now it won't be for everyone, but if you're looking for something unique and different to jump into, Rengoku 2 has got you covered. Work Time Fun is a collection of quirky and downright bizarre minigames that is sure to put a smile on everyone's face. It shares many similarities with the likes of WarioWare and Bashi Bashi Special, with each minigame, or job as the game puts it, providing something unique in which to do. Ranging from chopping wood, throwing ball, and even wrestling, there are a ton to try out and get stuck into. For taking part in each job, you are rewarded a cash prize by the job demon at the end of each. These funds can be accumulated and spent on more types of jobs to try out. It's a pretty cool system, and with over 40 different minigames in which to unlock, it's bound to keep even the most proficient of players busy for quite some time. If you're looking for something truly fun and unique, as well as easy to jump into, Work Time Fun is the perfect experience. Known as Kingdom of Paradise in the West, Key of Heaven is an Oriental-themed action RPG that went by largely unnoticed when it released. The narrative sees 5 clans vying for power over the region, with players assuming the role of a man known as Shinbu, who is a member of one of these clans. He is tasked with retrieving several swords from each of them in order to become a master. As you would expect with most action RPGs, you'll find yourself taking on a range of enemies, acquiring items through exploration or the economy system, as well as leveling up and upgrading the huge amount of weapons and armor at your disposal. But where Key of Heaven truly shines is within the fighting system. It's surprisingly deep and allows the player to chain combos together and learn new strings by combining various forms of scrolls that are littered throughout the environment. There are a ton to find and master. Key of Heaven is a must-have on the PSP. Everyone should play this game as it offers up one of the finest experiences available on the system. Tokobot is a 3D platformer that sees the player assuming the role of a boy known as Bolt. He is tasked with bringing down an evil robot known only as Zero with the help of his little Tokobots. Now these little robots have the ability to perform various tasks and actions known as combinations. It sees them joining together, and this aspect is what will help Bolt fulfill his goal. From solving puzzles, taking on enemies, and helping traverse the environment, the Tokobots are essential to navigate through each, and they soon become an integral part to the overall experience. Now it's not the finest 3D platformer on the system by any means, but it still totally deserves a look. Kenka Bancho is truly a unique beat-em-up that absolutely oozes charm and style. It sees players taking up the role of a high school student who decides to ditch learning and instead become the biggest badass in town. He's not the only one with this idea, and several other students from rival schools are also after the title. The game empowers you with a range of moves such as punches, kicks and throws to manage the thugs that roam the streets. As you take them out and complete objectives, you are rewarded with experience points and money, which can be used to unlock extra moves, as well as a range of cosmetic changes and items that all help you progress further through the experience. The environment is surprisingly large, with over 45 different factions in which to locate and conquer. It will surely last you some time. All in all, Kenka Bancho is a solid and attractive addition to the PSP's library, and it totally deserves a place within yours. Monster Kingdom shares many similarities with the likes of Pokemon, and tasks players with exploring a vibrant world whilst capturing and nurturing a huge variety of monsters that aid you in battle. Now I received pretty mixed reviews upon its release for this reason alone, and many just called it a Pokemon clone, but in my opinion it offers a competent experience that manages to add its own take on the formula and creates something memorable. The game is set up into two sections, one being the world map from which you can access towns, shops and dungeons, with these dungeons making up the second section, which allow the player to explore each in order to advance the narrative as well as to catch new monsters. There's a ton to see and do in Monster Kingdom Dual Summoner. Now would be the perfect time to jump in and check it out for yourself. Prinny is a rather cute little platformer that sees players taking up the role of a small bird known as Prinny. The game is set across a wide range of locations and offers a multitude of levels in which to traverse and overcome. The main aspect of the experience has to be its difficulty. It's not exactly a walk in the park and is bound to turn off some players due to this, but if you stick with it, Prinny offers one of the finest platforming experiences on the system. Now as you would expect, the gameplay involves reaching the end of each level without succumbing to the variety of enemies that block your progress. To counteract this, the player has a range of abilities in which to utilize, such as the hip pound, which is the primary form of taking out enemies, as well as a sword in which to hack and slash your way to victory. If this one passed you by, now is the perfect time to jump in and experience it for yourself. The adventure begins with players assuming the role of a young prince known as Pietro. After learning the fate of his long-lost mother, he sets out on a journey to ultimately find her and become reunited. Now the narrative has to be the standout aspect of the experience. It deals with overcoming difficulties, making friends, and essentially growing up. But that's not all that it gets right. The gameplay also delivers, making this one to remember. The entire kingdom is your playground. It is absolutely huge and home to a wide range of locations as well as meaningful NPCs that help flesh out the backstory. But where it truly shines is within the battling system that is turn-based in nature and empowers the player with a whole host of both magical and physical abilities. There's a ton to learn and unlock throughout the journey, and is sure to keep fans of the genre as well as newcomers alike completely satisfied.